Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The first session today, as you know, we're covering exploration and production challenges in hydrocarbon and coal, the way forward. I also have two eminent colleagues here who will be talking in this session. First, Professor Rakesh Kumar Vij. I've known him for 30 years now, 35 years now, from ONGC days. And he's an expert on exploration and production matters. He has worked on many fields in ONGC. He specializes in reservoir engineering and management. Number of qualifications he has. He has worked also in the corporate planning division in ONGC, and he is presently a professor at the prestigious Deen Dayal Petroleum University, Pandit Deen Dayal in Ahmedabad. My other eminent panelist here is Ms. Mukherjee. She is Director Oil and Gas India in Tito India Private Limited. I was just talking to her in the morning, very interesting talking to her, what she's doing on digitization in the oil and gas area, and she'll be talking about her experience. So I welcome both the panelists. The topic, as you know, challenges, exploration production. I'm exploration production man, like Professor Vij also here. The number of challenges in oil and gas sector. If you see from technical point of view, maybe I can come out with 10, 15 different points. But I think overall, if you see from national point of view, from point of view of people who count, because we are here to work for our country and for the people. The biggest challenge I find in the oil and gas sector in exploration production side is that our exceedingly heavy dependence on imported crude oil. And I made a number of presentations earlier. If you exceed 50% import in any major developing country or even developed country, it's a matter of extreme worry that you are depending so much of your foreign exchange reserves are going for importing one product, then you don't have enough foreign exchange left for importing other essential items which your industries require. And import dependence strategically is also very dangerous. We have seen that in 1971 war, even in 1965 war, without telling us, our suppliers make excuses and they don't send tankers. And then your defense forces are at the mercy of who knows what. In 71 war, of course, Professor Vij is already here, we flogged the Bombay High Field, and which is very dangerous. Those of you who are familiar with reservoir engineering principles, you don't flog your field, but we had no other alternative but to flog whatever ONGC fields and oil India fields they can flog, because no supplies were coming to us. And God forbid that we should ever expose our country again to that kind of dangerous situation. But now it is far more worrying that we are depending on crude oil imports almost 82%. Is unthinkable from strategic point of view and from foreign exchange point of view. In my view, this is the biggest worry now. And also, we were pretty good 5 years, 6 years ago on gas. And now even in the form of LNG, we're importing 50% gas comes to India now, and this is going to increase. Now, our Prime Minister gave us a call the very first month he became PM, and he said that India must reduce 10% of our imports. And to that level, national oil companies, the ministry, private companies, they're all working in that direction, how to cut down our imports by 10%, which is a laudable step. Now, what are the solutions? Because this topic here is challenges to exploration and production. The solution, of course, is that simple: produce more. Okay, produce more first in the country if we can, or from overseas basins where our Indian companies are working, like OVL, ONGC Videsh, Oil India, and even other marketing companies like IOC, HPCL, BPCL, they're all abroad in one form or the other, working in various basins now, and we're getting oil. I mean, the share of oil that OVL gets from overseas is about 8 million tons per year. The target should have been, in my view, 20 million tons at least, but now they're getting 8 million tons. This is one way of reducing your dependence on foreign oil. And other thing is that we'll hear today also, and you must have heard yesterday, that we should switch over from oil to gas, because 82% dependence on oil is very dangerous, so switch over to gas, but even gas we are importing to a certain extent. And lastly, of course, will be solution that we should most dramatically increase renewable resources in the country now. Now, fortunately, the current government has taken major steps on renewables. The aim of the current government is to produce 175 gigawatt of power by 2030, which is a very laudable effect. And India is now virtually becoming the world leader in solar power. As you are aware, that India and France have this special alliance, and they're leading the world now in solar power. So this is a very good step now. Now, coming to what are we doing in the country for producing more in the country? Now, in this context, I'd just like to say that we have something called Prognosticated Reserves, how much reserves we have in the country. How many of you are from petroleum background here? I should not be talking too much on petroleum if you are from coal background only, or nobody from petroleum background? Or just 4, 5, 6 people? Okay, so then I may be unnecessarily talking about the oil side. Anyway, the prognosticated reserves of the country are 28 billion tons. These are the reserves, resource we call them, resource in the ground in various basins of the country are 28 billion tons. This was calculated many years ago. When I did deep water surveys and ultra deep water surveys in 97 to 2000, we hired a ship, and every year the ship was working in the sea. We mapped a lot of deep water areas, and then we found indications of hydrocarbon and structures. So we upgraded the resources to 32. And unfortunately, after I retired, it was not followed up, and so it became again 28. Remained 28 for last 15, 20 years again now. But recently, DGH and ministry have done a special 2-year study, because we have now a lot more data. We have a lot more seismic data, gravity magnetic data, a lot of wells have been drilled now. They have upgraded our reserves in the basin, and now it is supposed to be 42. Now, this is a very heartwarming thing for geologists and petroleum people, that instead of 28 billion, our reserves in the ground, these are resources in the ground, 42. Now, normally, you upgrade about 30 or 40% of that, what is in the ground. And that too takes 20 years or 30 years to prove that. We drill hundreds and thousands of wells, you do a lot of surveys, it takes 20 years, 30 years now. So we have upgraded so far from 28, only 12 billion tons of proven reserves. That's the reserves that we can take out from the ground now. So if I apply the same analogy, we can upgrade at least another 8 billion tons of reserves because of the new base that we have. And 8 billion tons of reserves, if I take recovery factor of, let us say, 30% for oil, I take a recovery factor of say 55%, very low I'm taking figures, of gas, will give us about 3.3 billion tons of oil and oil equivalent of gas. And that kind of reserves can give us a production of 65 to 80 million tons for next 30 years. That we're looking at now. So this is very, very heartwarming. We can, if we do more surveys, more drilling of wells, more mapping, then we can produce a lot more oil. Our current production in the country is about 42 billion tons only. So I'm talking of we can produce 60 to 85 million tons for next 30 or 40 years now. Plus, government has taken a number of other steps. Since most of you are not from oil background, I will not labor the issue. But we have done now, discovered small fields, various rounds. I'll not go into details because there are no petroleum people here now. We have done hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, what we call it HELP. We have done open acreage. In the last 6 months, open acreage, round 1, 2, and 3 have been announced. And we have done reduced royalty rates now to encourage exploration in the country. There is a national data repository, a huge, massive library has been built for storing all our data, which is going to help us to find more oil and gas. And a number of issues and topics government is covering, which if anybody here is interested, I can talk to you at lunchtime and give you all the information. With these opening remarks, I will invite Professor Vij to give his talk, please. Thank you so much.